Hello, good evening, everyone. Uh, Once again, I would like to welcome each one of you to today's episode of the Disputation. My name is Kuzoya Tembo, and I'm just going to give you a brief background for those of you who are attending today's episode on just the Disputation for the first time. I'll just give you a brief background. Basically, the Disputation is a Zambian platform that we established for the sake of promoting informed discussion and rational thinking amongst especially young people. One of the things that we are passionate about is the fact that in this time and age we have the internet, and we have information that's basically moving around at an extremely high rate, and because of this we realize that it's easy for us not to analyze issues very critically, and not to think about any particular thing, because we're not really focused on anything at all. But news is basically being made every day. We've made this platform as basically an initiative for us to just pause and think about issues that are affecting us, whether it be issues about politics, social issues, religious issues, and just to pause for a moment and just speak about them and look at them from different perspectives. That's what the disputation is about today. But before I actually hand over to Mwase, who will be moderating today's debate, I'd just like to say a bit about Humanity Challenge Organization, HCO. HCO is an organization that is a partner to the Disputation, and they are one of our sponsors. And basically, Humanity Challenge Organization is also an organization that is a Zambian-owned NGO that is primarily focused on promoting entrepreneurship, promoting basically the same issues that we are advocating for. And so we partnered because I think we have the same direction as organizations. And so I would just like to state our thanks to them for the support that they offer to this platform. At this point, I'm going to call on Mwase and hand over the floor to him. Mwase, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Kuzwell, and welcome everyone. I'm privileged to moderate this debate. My name is Mwase Kumwenda. Matters to do with cheating have been in existence since time immemorial. Cheating exists everywhere. You know, when you hear of Brad Pitt cheat on Jennifer Aniston, you ask yourself, Jolie, and you say, okay, maybe he thought she was prettier than Jennifer Aniston. But then you hear Jay-Z cheats on Beyonce, and you're like, okay, this guy cheated on Beyonce. What more did he want? And you know, and you see someone cheat on Will Smith, and you start to think maybe cheating is something that's only prevalent among the rich. But all you have to do is read a newspaper, read the Kachepa or is it Causeway, or go to the Zambian local courts among Zambia's most poor and needy people. And even there, cheating is rife. Cheating amongst partners is not only something for the rich, and that's why the motion, this house believes that the reason men and women cheat is because humans were never meant to be monogamous. Today, we have nothing but Zambia's finest. We searched high and low and called many people, searched the internet and found 4 of the best to handle this particular topic. Our first speaker who's going to say hi to us, the first proposer, is a guy called Chabula. What can I say about this brother? This guy is intense. He's a rocket scientist, for crying out loud. He's an inventor. He's created a drone. Also, this brother was on Date My Family. I think he's looking for someone. He plays rugby. He plays instruments. Chabula, welcome to the platform. Just say hi to the people, man.
Hello, people.
Thank you very much. The next person I'm going to introduce is the first opposer. This guy is also quite the legend himself. He's a financial analyst. Dude is super smart. He's a Rhodes scholar, and he's just trying to make Zambia a better place. Njamba Kapalu, how you doing, man?
Good, Chief. How's everyone doing?
All right, nice one, nice one. It's not just gentlemen, we have ladies as well. The second opposer from the ladies is a serious lady. She has a double major degree. First of all, she's created an NGO. She's into human resource. She's passionate about the lives of prisoners and making sure that once they come out of jail, they are better people and able to make money. Mwenda Louis, say something.
What's up, guys? Hello.
Nice one, nice one. And the final speaker this evening is a lady called Muma Ngambi. She is also quite intelligent. She's a financial analyst. She's a consultant. When she runs, she does no less than 10 kilometers in a run. She is serious. Muma, how are you doing this evening? All right, all right. I can see her, but I can't see her mic. I think it's some technical difficulty. I'm going to assume she's fine. In fact, I know she's fine. Eventually she'll log on and join us. All right, we'll then get into it. The first segment of the debate, so there are three segments of the debate. The first one is the opening statement, all right? So each team is going to give us an opening statement concerning the motion and why they believe what they believe. This will be 3 minutes. After this part, we will have the main arguments. So each speaker will have 5 minutes to present their main arguments. And after that, the final segment of the debate will be cross-examination. At this point, the gloves come off, no courtesy. These people get to interrogate each other and ask their hard questions. Prior to cross-examination, there will be no interjections. After the cross-examination, 20 minutes will be allowed for the audience to ask questions directly to the debaters. But in the meantime, we encourage the audience to basically post their comments and questions in the chat, and I'll read them out at the end. All right, let's get into it. We'll ask the proposers to give us their opening statement. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Am I clear, Mr. Moderator?
Very clear.
All right, thank you for the warm introduction and for putting me on this debate. So to start with no further ado, I'm going to get into my presentation. I representing our team on the opening remarks. And the House believes that men and women cheat because humans were not meant to be monogamous. So to start, to push this motion, I'm going to start by defining what we understand by this motion. So men and women, hence human beings, where is a second person singular past tense statement. It's like was, were meant to be. When you say meant to be, basically what you're saying is by nature, human beings were by nature destined, or rather fated, not being a negative, right? So not being a negative, they were not meant to be, they were not naturally meant to be monogamous, right? Now, when we speak of monogamy, that is the practice or condition of having a single sexual partner during a period. Or other definition, the practice or condition of being married to only one person, the practice of marrying only once in a lifetime. In zoological terms, the condition of having only one sexual partner, only one mate. So classical monogamy is the act of having sex with only one partner in your life, right? Meaning the first person that you have sex with as a virgin is the person that you have sex with for the rest of your life and no other, right? if I would ask anybody in the house here, how many of us can confess to marrying the first person that we have sex with for the first time in our lives? Right? So cheating, the act of dishonesty, or the act of going against societal norms, cheating, the acting dishonestly or going against what is morally acceptable. So to redefine this statement, what we're saying is human beings, people, cheat, right, or act in a way that is not morally acceptable as far as monogamy is concerned, because it is only natural that their instinct makes them, allows them to admire, crave, and have these
Time's up.
relations.
Thank you very much, Tabula. You will say more in your main arguments. All right, so that was the opening statement by the proposers. That was 3 minutes. We'll now have the opening statement by the opposers. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. So we're for the motion that we are opposing the reason that men and women cheat is because human beings were not meant to be monogamous. Every beautiful thing is made in twos: 2 wings, 2 hands, a pair of eyes, and so on and so forth. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, we see that God created man and woman, and not men and woman or women and men. We also see that he went on and told them to go and procreate and also be in control of the world. The Collins Dictionary defines monogamy as a practice of having sexual relations with one partner. It also defines it as a state or custom of being married to only one person in particular at a time. With that said, the following will be our backings for our arguments. We will look at biological reasons, nature versus nature, human choice, and human choice. So with that said, Robert Verbegens naturally defines human beings as sexually reproducing species. And then he goes on to explain how sperms are far more plentiful than eggs, and males can father an almost unlimited number, whilst women can only do this one at a time. In nature versus nature, we see an opportunity where we have a man has been built to be more inclined to take care of a child that is of his own offspring. If we look at the subject of polyandry, a man is most likely to take care of a child who is his own child. And then if we look at issues such as human choice, we believe, or we have dug into the concept of thinking that human beings have a choice. If you decide to be in more than one relationship or to step out of your relationship, that is your choice. And with that, we will explain further. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that well-explained plan of your debate. You did it in under 3 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, the teams have just given their opening statements. The gloves are about to come off. The motion of this debate is: this house believes that the reason men and women cheat is because humans were not meant to be monogamous. All right, we'll now enter into 5 minutes for each speaker, and we'll start with the first speaker from the proposers to tell us their thoughts on this matter. So Chabula or Muma, any of you can start. You are the proposers. You have 5 minutes each to give your opening arguments.
Okay, so in this, I am the first proposer. And to start our argument, having rephrased the motion, we shall now delve into it. So we're going to start by looking at religion, right? Over 69% of the world is religious. 69% of the world population is either Christian, Islam, or Hindu. Due to the lack of time, we're going to look at the two largest religions, which are Abrahamic religions, Islam, and Christianity. Now, religion is very important because in some part it significantly describes the nature of human beings. Government and certain norms are significantly governed by religion. And in these religions, you look at human nature. Islam identifies that a man cannot be, it is natural for a man not to be married to only one lady. And that's why the mighty Allah, both in Shia and Sunni Islam, prescribe that a man can be married to up to 4 ladies, as Allah told the Prophet Muhammad. According to Islam, it is not natural. But the Prophet Muhammad, being the chosen one by Allah, married 11 ladies. In Christianity, the very nature of man is described as the nature of the flesh. Yes, according to Christianity teachings, it is a sin to marry one after a divorce. However, the flesh lasts, and the flesh has got sexual desires. The flesh in itself is the nature of man. And the choice of man to stay monogamous is a decision made contrary to the flesh, which is supported by the spirit. But the nature of man in itself is not monogamous. It is human instinct. In the Bible itself, you have the likes of King Solomon, who was the wisest man. By definition, being wise, he had experience and great knowledge and thinking. Through his judgment, he chose to follow his instinct. And he had 700 wives and 300 concubines. The list goes on. Lamech, King David, Abijah. The Old Testament permitted, according to the Torah, permitted for a man to have multiple wives. Moses had 2 wives, according to Deuteronomy 21. Right? It is natural for a man to want to marry more than one person. According to the definition, so then I'll go into science. Human beings are animals after all. Different animals have got different instincts. Through the process of natural selection and looking for the ultimate mate, the majority of people who sleep with more than one person in their lifetime. According to the evolution of monogamy in Response to Partner Security Journal and the Monogamy in Mammals Journal, the scientific journal, it was published that not a single species has been identified to be fully genetically monogamous. And by that, often when people cheat, they are responding to an instinct. You do have a choice whether to follow it or not, but it doesn't change the fact that your nature is not monogamous in most people. How many in this house can confess to only having one sexual partner in their life? If we follow the test of classical monogamy, which is the first person that you have sex with, and that's the only person that you ever have sex with in your life, I bet would all fail that test, or at least the majority of us would fail it.
Chaula, you have 30 seconds.
Because it is unnatural, it is only natural that man will crave entanglements, relationships, and all these things with more than one person. And with this, I conclude my argument. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that well-structured argument, Chabula. I think it's getting hot. This brother quoted the Quran, he's quoted the Bible, he's referred to science as well. That was the first of our proposers. We'll then switch it up and see what the first speaker from the opposers has to say. Opposers, you have the floor.
Good day, everyone. I will touch on 2 points. Thankfully, there are 2 points that the proposer began with. I will touch on religion and human choice. So God's creation plan was simple. A man shouldn't be alone. A companion is an important aspect of life. Being married has helped me see how this was immense favor to me. I've been able to see how marriage creates bonds that can only be formed through full trust and dependence. As each year passes, you realize that you become mutually dependent. And this, friends, is why scripture uses the word cling to that one wife. It can be proposed and has been proposed that the Old Testament is full of great men that had multiple wives and clearly disobeyed and were not punished for that. Another statement that was brought is that the Torah permitted it. But it's clear that there's a huge difference between permission and God's staying his hand away from judgment. So as much as we do not see God thundering from heaven when the patriarchs had their many wives, scripture does not shy away from showing us the consequences. These can easily be seen as factions that can be shown through the children of Jacob, jealousy, envy, and in many cases, murder. This can be seen throughout the book of Chronicles, throughout the book of Kings, and it's not hard to find a source of this as factions created through children from multiple women. And as single-minded as men are, they're not able to love 2 women equally. Jacob, for example, had 4 wives, so he clearly didn't love equally, and we see the consequences of that. The stability that one woman brings has also shown to provide firmness in resolve and purpose that is clearly shown in scripture through the negative examples. The proposer highlighted Solomon. See, that's one great example. Scripture says in Kings, as Solomon grew old, his wives turned his heart after other gods, and his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God. We do see, however, in the New Testament that Christ signals a return to God's original plan. So the argument of the Old Testament patriarchs no longer holds water. If reference is needed, this is in Matthew 19, 4-6. My second point is human choice. Self-control is something that only humans have. Just because you can doesn't mean you must. Men and women ought to be busy. We ought to be working. A culture of laziness and pride has resulted in a loosening of morals. If you have too much free time as a married man, you are bound to use that extra time for distraction rather than good. But to the point of being able to choose more than one partner, again, self-control. Just because you can doesn't mean you must. This is the same with corruption. Just because you don't have money for Hungry Lion, or better yet, you are struggling with using an iPhone X, so you need an iPhone XR, doesn't mean that you must steal or find a way to cover this new expense. Just because you can't doesn't mean you must. Self-control is the basis on which our societal contracts are built. Once we remove that, the fabric of society is torn into pieces. The laws that, if not lived by, result in anarchy that would result in the actions that are bred from factions, jealousy, and envy. So simply put, self-control is a human requirement. Just because we can doesn't mean we must. Lastly, monogamy is also a much more energetically economical arrangement than polygamy, which is wasteful of time and energy as males fight over females and split resources. And in the words of Elvis Presley, we can't build our dreams on suspicious minds. It's on that argument that I rest.
Wow, thank you very much for that, Jamba. That was really good. Dissected the scripture and also went into the economics of having one wife. Thank you very much for those submissions. We'll then get into the second proposer's main argument, and that's Muma Ngambi. Over to you, Muma. You have 5 minutes.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, lovely. So we believe that monogamy is based on the misconception of what romance and love is. When we place monogamy at the heart of any sexual long-term commitment, we can all agree that we have seen what it leads to, which is divorce, high divorce rates, short-term relationships, high infidelity to satisfy sexual needs and other desires in both men and women. A man or woman's choice to value monogamy, bodily autonomy, empathy should not be misconstrued as working monogamy that should be imposed to society, or nor should it be concluded that it's a natural course of life. Monogamy was introduced somewhat about 60 to 100 years ago as legal, and prior to that, men had many wives and concubines, which all the speakers have alluded to, and similarly, women were allowed to marry as many men, which is polyandry. This argument, however, should not be male-centric, and we should not only make certain assumptions about women. Studies have shown that women do get bored with one partner more quickly than men do. Women crave novelty, variety, adventure at least as much as men do. And you can say women get easily bored sexually in marriage as their libido reduces. Recent studies have also shown a possibility of higher infidelity in women than in men. So I want to ask again, is monogamy natural? I believe Enja in his study also describes as cultural reasons to explain why monogamy became a norm. Obviously, social problems of leaving many men angry in polygamy when seeking out polygamy, and as well, he said that monogamy was more economically viable. So I would like to conclude that we can agree that monogamy was a social construct that was imposed on people, or more specifically by men who were maybe economically challenged and were not able to have more than one wife, or people who had low self-esteem and could not attract as many women. One argument. There's also polyandry, in which a woman has more than one husband, and it has been practiced in Africa, in Tanzania, Kenya, in Nigeria, in Asia, in China, in India, in Europe. We have it in ancient Greek mythology, ancient Roman empires. We've also had it in America, in the Native Americans. So why is it that if we feel that monogamy is natural, why have women and men sought out relationships and not being exclusive to one person? I feel that monogamy is very unsuccessful, as everybody can attest to high divorce rates, and each of us always seeking relationships, more than one relationship at a go. So I feel like we're forcing an unsuccessful human experiment and not allowing people to actually be in the natural state, which is being with more than one person, and obviously having more than one partner, both men and women. That's all for me.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Muma. She definitely dropped some scary data there. She said, and I quote, women get bored sexually in marriage as libido reduces. This is not a good statistic at all. But let's open it up for the fourth speaker of the day, who is the second opposer. Mwenda Louis, please speak to us. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. So I will be looking at biology and nature versus nature. So with biology, among mammals, just 9% of species are monogamous. Among primates, just 29% are monogamous. Humans are compared to what is referred to as our closest mammal relative. Our closest mammal relative, which is chimps. They are very active sexual beings, and it could be said that we are too and should be let loose in the world. However, there is one particular difference. Chimps' testicles are said to weigh about 150 grams, which is a third of the weight of their brains. So they're bigger than their brains. They are simply built for for their environment. Men, on the other hand, have testicles that weigh 3% of their brains. This has been said to point out their conservative sexual habits. So on this, I say we are not physically built like the rest of the mammals whose populations, we are not physically built like the rest of the mammal population to put our eggs all in one basket. Secondly, on nature versus nurture, if polygamy is right, then so is polyandry, where one woman has more than one husband, should also be right and legally recognized in those circles. That proposes polygamy. However, one flaw with that is that the nature of a woman, which speaks to her loyalty and nature, doesn't necessarily go hand in glove with the lifestyle. In addition, women's lots also include the ability to procreate. A baby's right includes being given a name and having a set of parents that can actually raise and provide for this child that cannot fend for itself. If a man is certain that a woman has multiple sexual partners, the likelihood of him breaking his back to help provide for his child is almost zero. The Time magazine reported that it is very rare for any species to engage in biparental care unless males are guaranteed that they are genetically related to the offspring. This is confidence only among monogamy. We can only see this in monogamy. The result effects are that there is going to be a fatherless community, which needs further explanation. A peep into the Black community, for example, in the American society, we see that its economic and social declines points to result to the damage of a fatherless community. With this, I rest my case.
Thank you very much for that. The opposers finished theirs a few minutes early. That allows us for one question to each team before we enter cross-examination. Just have a question for the proposers. I'm going to start with Chabula. Just one question for you. You said the nature of man is that man is not monogamous, and you cited the Quran, the Bible, and science. How then do you explain people who've actually been able to say they are monogamous without any of the challenges that you say? If there's one man who is monogamous and is practicing it, how then can you zero it in and say man is generally not monogamous? Quick response to that.
A quick response is that boils down to choice, and the number of men that will not crave or want anything out of their union or their sexual partner, or crave for a non-sexually exclusive or have non-sexually exclusive desires, is
Mm.
is a minority to the general public. Is a minority. So you can choose to be monogamous, but let's separate choice from nature. Naturally, you
All
can
right.
crave. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for that. Another question to the opposers. So last question, after which we enter cross-examination. Wenda Louis, you said some interesting stuff. In particular, you mentioned the size of human testicles versus a monkey's testicles, and you said a monkey's testicles are like a third of the brain, and that's why they have more sex, and therefore they're bound to have more than one sexual partner. And you use this to say that that's why human beings are naturally monogamous. Really, is that the reason you're going to go with? Because that means there's still a chance for people to cheat, right? Even though they only use, even though their testicles are only like 3% the size of their brain. So there's a 3% chance that human beings are not monogamous, right?
No, that's not what I said. Maybe you didn't. Maybe the questionnaire didn't get my. I was
Please clarify.
comparing the two. Okay, I was comparing the two to say that because of the size of the brain, the size of the brain of a chimp is smaller than its testicles, and whilst the size of the brain of a human being is bigger than its testicles. So with the size of the brain of the chimp, which is at 3%, is a third weight of their brain. What I meant by saying is that they have more, excuse my French, they have more testicles than they do have thinking or reasoning capacity. While us as human beings, we have more brain and reasoning and thinking capacity, because our brains and the brains and the testes not the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, that's just a brief into what's about to get down. Ladies and gentlemen, the gloves are about to come off. They've been courteous all along. There have been no interjections, but now we're about to enter into cross-examination. So during cross-examination, by the way, this is the final segment of the debate. Each team will have 7 minutes to cross-examine the other. They will ask questions in the same way I just did and seek to draw answers and punch holes in the testimony that the previous team said. So I'll allow the proposers to punch their holes first. So proposers, you have 7 minutes to cross-examine the opposers on what they have just shared this evening.
Okay. I'd like to pose a question to Mwenda. So you talked about how a man raising a child can only raise a child that is his, and having more than one partner hinders that ability. Did you know that in Tibet, polyandry was practiced, and one female would have sex with all the brothers in the clan at multiple times consecutively, and they'll still have children and still be able to raise that family in a clan mentality? So do you still believe that somebody can only raise their own children, and how is that connected to monogamy? I think that's a debate that is probably leaning towards kindness or somebody choosing who he wants to raise, and has nothing to do with your sexuality or whether the child is yours. Then you said women's nature is loyalty. Who told you that? I think when you're having a debate, you should say, if you're loyal, you should say you're loyal. There's many women who make choices that are not based on loyalty and based on personal needs. So if I have another partner or multiple partners, it does not mean I'm just loyal. It might mean I have other needs. So if you could expound on what you mean women are naturally loyal, Thank you. And then you said, Tunjamba, he said that we're not supposed to be lazy, and so having one person kind of helps you not to be lazy. I would like to argue that actually a hardworking man would have more than one wife, because we know economically polygamy is economically strenuous than just having one wife. I would actually argue and say you are complacent with having an economically benefiting relationship. And I think people who are in polygamous relationships are not lazy. If anything, I think they are hardworking. And if we're going anything by the Bible, we all say that you should be hardworking. So they're hardworking. So in all, I think naturally a hardworking person would want to serve more than one mouth.
Wanda, if you don't mind, I would like to take some of those. So Napoleon Hill did a study on success, and the law of success itself was birthed by him and Andrew Carnegie, and in his discussion of the most common causes of failure, among them your procrastination, lack of persistence and courage and responsibility for one's failures, negative personality. One of the items that he speaks of is intemperance in eating, drinking, and sexual activities. Now, he does speak about this quite a lot. That's his number 24. Number 5, he speaks to a lack of self-discipline and tact, generally manifesting itself through all sorts of excesses, especially in sexual desires and eating. So in a large sense, you have brought about great examples of men who have been successful.
3 more minutes for cross-examination. Please proceed.
Yeah, of men who have been very successful with their multiple wives. But the problem with that is we're not using a level of significance which is higher than a 1% or a 5% level of significance. And therefore, that is, I think, statistically incorrect. The majority of men who have decided to take up a polygamy type of situation would have to split resources, and they're very unlikely to be amongst the 1% richest people in the world. And that's largely because of its inability to be a successful mechanism.
Interjection. Sanjamba. I appreciate what you're trying to explain, but I think you're going away from the topic of the motion. The motion is that humans cheat because they were not meant to be monogamous, meaning it is human nature to want to seek things outside. And in your presentation, you spoke of Adam, God, Adam, and what not. Now, if we're to go by the definition of classical monogamy, which is one sexual partner, one sexual partner for in your lifetime.
Yeah.
What would you say about Lilith? Right?
About?
I don't know about Lilith, Adam's first wife. Because when you classify books or when you classify ancient text, it can either be a fairy tale, folk tale, or history. If we go to the sources of Genesis, we do know that Genesis is not history. It is more of a folk tale. It's full of legends, and some are fairy tales. Unlike other books.
That's a great perspective if we say that the Bible itself is either a fallacy or a folk tale. Otherwise,
the Bible is made up of different books. Some are history. Genesis, for instance, is a mixture of folk tale and fairy tales. But Adam, if you do your research, Lilith was Adam's first wife, who did not act desirable, but that was excluded from the Bible. So what would you say about Lilith? Adam did not practice classic or
Yeah.
monogamy.
I would say the concept is completely flawed just from that itself. Otherwise, because the biblical text, if we start talking about any
We're
texts that were
talking about
excluded
the
from the
nature.
Bible,
We're talking about
yes,
nature of man.
I
right?
agree.
So
I
we're
agree
not
with
talking
you.
about the choices
But I'll
that
allow
they
this
make.
to go on for a bit. I'll allow for 1 more minute of this.
Yeah,
7 minutes is up. Please respond.
So just to bring back, we're talking about the nature of man, not the choices that you make. One chooses to be monogamous because it is good for them, but it doesn't mean that that's their nature.
Yes, so in that context, sir, if the nature of the man is also to seek plenty and to seek out food, it's in our nature to feed ourselves. Does that mean if I'm working in a position of power and I do not have bread at home, that I should, because of my nature, seek out the funds that are for the organization that I work with? That would be a premise for corruption as well, and we should remove corruption as a sense in itself.
I just don't think we should talk about theft and monogamy, or corruption and monogamy. Those are two different trained thoughts completely.
No. So Muma, I'm basing my premise on
Excuse me.
nature.
Yes.
Njamba,
No.
excuse
If
me.
I can
Can we have
interject.
order? Sorry. Time for cross-examination for proposers has passed. Now time for the opposers to cross-examine the proposers on what was said. Opposers, over to you. You have 7 minutes.
I think I would mainly touch on Chabula's point of the Abrahamic texts. When you are quoting the texts and saying these believed that polygamy was wrong, you also said the Torah the Torah permitted polygamy as well. My assumption, I've not read the Torah, but my assumption is the Old Testament of the Bible is in line with the majority of the Torah. What would give the point that this was something that was permitted? I do agree with you in the Quran. It is spoken of the 4 wives, but I do not understand how the other 2 major Abrahamic texts, you're also saying that these permit, and therefore it forms a foundation for allowing polygamy.
And also, just an addition, I would like to find out from Muma. You had indicated or mentioned that a woman's libido wears out. The specificity of your words have gone, but a woman's libido runs out. So my question is, are you saying that like your mileage on the car, or if you have a bottle of 1 liter, you should finish the 1 liter and give it to everybody? You have the choice to share it with 10 different people before it runs out? Is that how you are justifying the motion? Thank you.
So let me answer you quickly. Firstly, libido is sexual desire. And I think that your analogy of saying you have to finish your tank and all that stuff, what I was alluding to is that equally married men, when they want to go out of their relationships and seek other partners, it's the same way women's sexual desire with that one partner dwindles, and they're enticed to have other partners outside their marriage. So when I said that a woman's libido reduces, I did not talk about mileage, and I was not insinuating that libido has any form or connection to how many sexual partners a woman should have. I just merely meant that The same way a man would just not be satisfied with one partner is the same way a woman would want to explore her sexual options with more than one partner. And I think that should be equally allowed. Why I feel that should be allowed is that then it obviously reduces the divorce rates. It also allows people to live a life that they actually do want to have. And you talking about a woman having mileage, I kind of got an undertone of some misogyny and almost slut shamming women. I think a woman should be allowed to be very liberal with the number of partners that she has, the same way that men are. So I think we should not be slut shaming anyone and has many partners as you want. The same way a man should have more than one wife, a woman should equally be allowed to have to practice polyandry. Chabula, to you, answering Jamba's question.
Yeah, so in referring to the Bible, yes, the Torah, which does make part
3
of
more
the Old
minutes of
Testament.
cross-examination.
In Deuteronomy chapter 21, where the Bible talks about the captives, it says that if you notice among your captives a beautiful woman and are attracted to her, you may take her to your wife and bring her into your home and sleep with her. If you're not happy with her, you can let her go. Right? There was no limit of saying that's the only captive woman you can sleep with. Right? And that's why you see the likes of Moses had 2 wives, as well as other greats, because it was permitted in the Old Testament. And it was permitted knowing that it is only human nature to want more than one thing.
All right, thank you. Opposers, this is still your show. There's still 2 minutes of cross-examination to go.
Hi, Moma. I think my point might be on your stance with regards to the economical perspective. If monogamy then is a failed system, how is it that during the periods when monogamy has been most proposed or has been more central to the global environment, that the world economy has had its greatest successes?
Firstly, I believe that monogamy was introduced by capitalist philosophy to help simplify economic needs. What that means, you assume that you have more money by spending less on one person. And then you had talked about how the billionaires are actually, the significant billionaires are actually in monogamous relationships. I'm sure you know Jeff Bezos was actually caught having an extramarital affair. If we are naturally monogamous, why did such a billionaire go out of his way to do that? And as well, just because economically we have decided that monogamy should be imposed on people, there is no direct correlation with an economy's productiveness and being monogamous. I believe you who pays taxes and 1,000 women you marry who pay taxes is equal to what they contribute to GDP, whether or not it's a polyandrous, polygamy, or monogamous. So I do not think monogamy has anything to do with economic viability or economic growth in any country. If we look at the eastern side, the Muslims and the Islam, in fact, they still practice polygamy and their economies are booming just as much as perhaps America, where they feel that monogamy is their standard practice. So I don't think economics and GDP has anything to do with monogamy at all.
Thank you. Time is up. I'll allow for 1 more minute if there's anything the opposers want to drive home.
No, happy.
All right. Thank you very much for the debate, guys. It was really beneficial. Really, this ends the debate, but now we'll just allow for around 10 minutes for the audience to ask questions. So anyone in the audience that has a question, is free to raise their hand. I'm just checking the comments just now. We had Chisanga talking about Will and Jada cheating and disagreeing with that. We set him straight quickly. They were married, so it was cheating nonetheless. Any questions? Kay asks, she said, does the Bible teach that polygamy or polyandry is sin? Any evidence? I think this is going to the opposers, right? Quick response to Kay's question.
Just a quick, just a second. Wait, is my mic on?
Yeah, it's
okay,
on.
Cool. Sorry, I'm just flipping.
All right.
So let me just read quickly. Matthew 19, verse 4 to 6. And he answered and said to them, have you not read that he who made them at the beginning made them male and female, and said, for this reason a man shall leave his mother and father and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So then you're no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no man separate. So in here, Christ is correcting the notion of the Old Testament where there was error from the fall. So after Genesis chapter 3 is where you now see the fall of man. And in the fall of man is where you now see the polygamy and all those issues that happen afterwards, the jealousy, the murder, and all that. Pre-fall, you do see God's union and how the marriage bed ought to be. And in Matthew, Christ comes to try and resolve the misinformation or misunderstanding that the Old Testament church had built over centuries of how marriage should be. But pre-fall and post-Christ is the correction with regards to marriage. If you check in Timothy as well, when Paul is speaking to how the church must be organized, he informs them that elders ought to be men of one wife. So he has to specify this because of the area that Timothy is in as well, helping them to understand the reasoning behind having the one wife and why men who are even in leadership within the church must be men of one wife.
And Jamba, can I say something?
All right, quickly, then I'll allow for Freddie to ask his question. Freddie's hand is up. Please, Muma, go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. Jamba, you also haven't talked about premarital sex. Chabu had touched on classic monogamy, which means the person that you're with is the only person you've had sexual relations with. And if I would allow anybody here to be as honest as possible, I think we have perhaps, to a certain extent, have dabbed in other sexual relationships before our spouses. So I think that's also another debate that you're not talking about as much as you're going in the back.
I think, Muma, that's such a great question. And thankfully, after 28 years, the first person that I slept with was my wife.
Well done to you.
So I can answer in the affirmative that it is possible. So that's probably why I haven't touched on it as much. So again, just because it's possible doesn't mean it has to be the only way of life. Just because we failed to control ourselves with regards to sexual urges doesn't mean that that's the only way that it should be. So I still stand on the fact that it's practically possible to wait until you marry in order to indulge in sex as Chabi brought about.
Right, thank you. I'll allow Freddie to ask his question, then Mwitupa, and then Nathan Kamanga. Freddie, please go ahead.
My question is to the proposers. If men and women are naturally not meant to be monogamous, why is it that we get hurt when somebody cheats on us? and society frowns upon people that faithful to one partner. If that is the case, why are most marriages in my profession? I handle sometimes with divorce cases. Most of the times, people want to leave because the other partner has been unfaithful. So, for those of you that are saying it's in our nature to be not to be monogamous, why then is this thing in our nature at loggerheads with something else in our nature, which is, for example, jealousy, loyalty, and things like that? Things that come naturally to us are things that nobody will frown upon. So, for example, if it's natural for you to feel thirsty, no one is going to frown upon you drinking water. But when it comes to this part, which the proposers are saying is natural, why are other people or even ourselves, why do we get hurt about that?
Okay, proposers.
Thank you.
So one thing I had said is that a man's choice for monogamy and empathy. So in empathy, that means you care about the other person's feelings and your feelings as well, right? That is all by choice. You feeling jealous, you feeling angry, you feeling hurt. I think that is by choice. And somebody hurting you has nothing to do with the nature of who you are. So what we are saying is that we're not supposed to be monogamous by nature. So if we allow polygamy in the nation or polygamy to be freely accepted, you won't feel hurt because you'll understand that, okay, the way a woman needs more than one partner, I also need more than one partner. But obviously there is a sense of, if you're with somebody, there's conversations that need to be spoken about with your partner. That's as far as I'll answer that. Chabu, do you have anything to say?
I think that's all right. He'll take the next one, probably. There's a question from Ade, or is it Aid? Okay, Nathan Kamanga, could you please ask your question? Okay. These hands were up. Muitupa, is Muitupa ready?
I'm ready.
All right, shoot.
All right, so I have two questions, one for the opposers and one for the proposers. So I typed my question to the proposers, and my question to them was, how is the nature of humans determined? Basically, how do we know what is good for us naturally and what is not? And to add on to what I had written, just to give it like context, I suppose,
Yep.
If something is common, does it make it natural? If something is, produces good results, does it make it natural? Yeah, just I wanted clarity on that. And then my question to the opposers was, if we're meant to be monogamous, why don't we see as many polygamous marriages ending in divorce the way we see monogamous ones ending? Does that make them more successful?
All right, thank you. Proposers go first. Chabi can take this one.
I wasn't clear on the question to the proposers.
All right, so my question was, how do we determine what comes natural to human? Like, the motion says it's in our nature to be, to not be monogamous. Like, we weren't meant to be monogamous. So how have you come to your conclusion of like what determines what is human nature and what is not? Could you give us other examples of things that are in our nature and where you've drawn your conclusions from?
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes.
So in coming to this being natural, we look at the previous human settlements, because settlements are evolving. So if you look at previous human settlements, which were more primitive, and by primitive, you mean something is natural, it is virgin. That is according to the way it has naturally evolved. in its early stage. So if you look at previous early settlements, naturally Homo sapiens and Neanderthals would mate with different partners, right? And it was natural in those societies. The instinct is something that is natural. You have instinct to react. You have instinct to eat, to have food, and to survive. That is natural, right? So that in itself being instinct is what we call natural. So in line with this motion, right? It is natural for you to want something that isn't monogamous, but it is your choice for you not to end up in an entanglement into a non-monogamous situation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The opposers, did you get Mutupa's question?
Could you please
All right.
repeat the?
Yeah.
All right. To the opposers, my question was, since polygamous marriages, statistically speaking, don't end in divorce as much as monogamous marriages do, if we are meant to be monogamous, does that not mean that polygamous marriages are more successful?
I think that's a really good question. A large reason why monogamous marriages have those issues that I guess Freddie brought out, ending in divorce, speaks to the contract. So that if the marriage contract from the beginning was it's us, let no man separate us, it's the two of us from now till death, then the reason many of them end in divorce is because someone has broken the contract. In many polygamous marriages, they've already gotten into it, understanding that there will be other women that are going to be married to this man, or if there's those like in Tibet that Muma brought out, there will be others that will be part of this relationship. So if it's already a norm and it's accepted by those getting into it, then it's unlikely that they will get out of it knowing what they got into. But the divorce rate would then be higher with those who decided, who did not have enough of the self-control to stay within the confines of their marriage and to not only accept but abide by the contractual obligations of the marriage. So I can understand that the divorce rate would be higher in monogamous marriages because the destruction of the contract is higher.
All right. Thank you very much. The time is 19:39. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. There've been people chatting on the group as well. Chisanga Kabuku, Henry, Liseli, Margaret, Chisanga Kasonde, Taona, Nathan, I thank you for your participation, even on the group D. I see you. Thanks to everyone generally who's found the time to tune into our debate this evening. We are glad you found the time. Thank you very much. Do join us again in 2 weeks' time. Take care.